Namaste and welcome. My name's Jeanette, and today's practice is earth-based hip opening. So there's just two postures we will be exploring, and you actually do need to have some props. So a bolster if you have, and if not, maybe a couple of blankets. Using blocks are optional for under the shoulders for the first pose. So if you have them, great. If not, you might try using a couple of books that are the same height. However, you can rest in the pose without using them. And I think that is all prop-wise. So we will begin seated. Just taking the time to come to the breath, to begin to let whatever's been going on in our day, evening, fade away. So finding a comfortable position. And you might actually change the cross of your legs if you're sitting cross-legged. We tend to be creatures of habit, and it's always nice to change our habitual patterning. And as you settle here, you might let out an audible sigh. And the eyes could close or focus upon a single spot. Hands resting lightly on legs. And we begin to feel the sits bones rootiness, landiness onto the mat. And we begin to notice our rhythm of breath without the need to shift it or change it at this point. Just noticing whether it feels a little fast. And if it does, that's awesome. And we simply observe without the need to judge what we find. And we now begin to deepen the breath into the belly region, knowing that it might not go there immediately, but as you continue to come back to the breath again and again consciously, it will eventually be felt there. And knowing that even when we have the intention of the breath going there, that it is traveling along the energetic highways in the body called the nadis. And that's how breath moves through the body. The invitation now is to place your hands onto your hips, your iliac crest, the front of the hip bone region. And just seeing if you can begin to expand the breath into these areas. And again, you might not feel it there immediately. You might be simply noticing it in the chest, and that's awesome. Knowing again that the breath is traveling within us on that subtle layer of the body into the areas that we rest attention. And let's have 3 more rounds of breath. And as that third one completes, release your hand and return the body to breathing itself. And softly opening eyes. As we set up for this gentle hip opening pose, you'll want to use your bolster or blankets more in the center of your mat. And you may or may not need support under your ankles. I know for myself with my knees, I do require it. So I usually use a blanket, fold it. It just offers a little bit of support for my ankles that takes stress off my knees. The blocks, if you have, can be positioned at the other end of the mat. So there's something like that. We'll adjust them shortly. And if you have an extra blanket, it's really nice to place it onto your back body once you're settled. So when you lower your hips onto the bolster, you would like those iliac crests, those front hip bones, to be somewhat right in the middle of the bolster or the blankets, whatever you're using. So you don't want to have a lot of your belly, a lot of your stomach on the bolster. Just a push, more of the hips are on it. So I'll show without the blocks first. From here you can simply settle your head, maybe onto hands. Maybe it's comfortable for your head to rest right on the ground or maybe on a cushion or pillow of some sort. Arms could maybe rest on the bolster or out along the ground. Or it might be really comfortable for the arms to rest into the goddess, also known as the cactus type shape. If you're using the blocks, excuse me, I have a little bit of the hums at the moment. If you're using the blocks, you want to position them on this upper chest, front shoulder region so that it is really, really comfortable. Your forehead might rest onto the mat. And your arms again might rest on bolster, out to the sides, maybe in that goddess position. And you may or may not need some sort of support for under your head. Feel free to play, trying different options until you can settle. And then, of course, feel free to reach for that extra blanket if you happen to have, and cover the back body. Settling here into the shape and encouraging a full surrender of the body into the support of the props. You might have, you might have that sighing, releasing breath as the body begins to trust the support beneath it more and more.
Eventually returning to the breath, to the experience of breath finding its way into the pelvis. And the breath aiding a release and more of a letting go. A reminder that at any time, if you need to come out of the pose before it's guided, to please do so. And if that does happen, just shifting the props and resting flat on the belly. Let's have 3 more rounds of breath here. Noticing that your breath might be felt in more places. Maybe up in the shoulders, as well as the pelvis. And when your breath's complete, we slowly begin to shift out of the pose. However, if your body's like, no, not yet, please stay longer. So when you're ready, beginning to use your hands. Exhale, low belly just hugs to spine. Coming into table at all 4 position. Big toes touch, knees widen, and we shift the bolster vertically. It can snuggle between the legs. You can lower the torso onto it. You might like to add height. Choosing a variation, as always, that feels appropriate for you. And of course, if you have knee issues, you could place the blanket up between calves and thighs. And if your ankles are a little bit unhappy, you could place blanket so that they have some support. and back body. Maybe would like to have some warmth. Come back to the breath. We're here just for a few rounds. From here, as you're ready, again, if you'd like to stay longer, please do so. From here, using an exhale to come up, and we settle into Savasana. Now, I actually like to use support in my Savasana quite often, in support of the bolster, under the knees, heels onto the blocks. And I like to use a blanket or two on my hips, belly, and thighs to aid in grounding, aiding the nervous system into a deeper relaxation response. And of course, for warmth. Now let's take 3 long, slow inhalations, longer and slower exhalations at your own rhythm. Notice perhaps new areas of the body that expand on your inhalations. And feeling more and more of a letting go, surrendering on your exhalations. As your breath completes its cycles, the body breathes itself, and settling into this deep inner experience of space, of surrender. If your body requires longer time here in relaxation, please stay. And when you're ready, shifting any props from belly, bending knees,
And drawing them into chest. And pausing just to feel. Maybe more of the back body is supported. Maybe movements required. Eventually the arm coming overhead. Body rolling to that side. And then exhale with helping hands. Returning to seated. Taking a few moments to simply be. An inhale sweeps arms out and up. Exhaling to heart. We'll close with a single Om and 3 Shantis. Inhale. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste.